Welcome, Kings of War fans! We got some more Kings of War today! Here we got 2,000 points of the Varangur. Talk us through your list, Nick. What have you got?
Alright, it's on the Korgan with the Headstrong and Fury mark, and that's it. Regiment of Bloodsworn with Headstrong and Fury, again, that's it. Warband, they've exchanged the two-handed weapons. Exchanged the shields for two-handed weapons, sorry, so they got Crushing 1 and Defense 3.
Nice.
Night Raiders with the Piercing 1 item. Looking forward to them. Horde of Cave Trolls, new and improved. Horde of Cave Trolls, they've got the Brew of Sharpness.
Wait, Brew of Sharpness?
That's right.
Oh, that's dirty, man.
+1 to hit
Nice.
with their Crushing 3. Cave Troll King, recently acquired.
Right, this guy's just got brand new out of the box, isn't he? Look at that for a model, man. That is sweet. Can't wait to play him. He's got big shield.
He's got big shield.
That's bullshit, man.
And breath attack, mate. And breath attack. He's going to stand in front of your trombones and just take it all. Scald with the Banner of the Griffin. 2 troops of Horse Raiders. Horde of Fallen with the Helm of the Rang. And big badass kicking Saul. King on Chimera with, he's got the Vicious item and Headstrong and Fury mark.
Are you going to make this the first one for the Nice, there we go. So that's 2,000 points of Varangur. Okay, and here's 2,000 points of Goblins. Working from left to right then, we have a regiment of Fleabag Riders. These guys have Helm of the Ram for Thunderous 2. In front of them, we have 2 regiments of more Beast Packs, totally naked, nothing on them. We've got a horde of Spearmen, but these guys are putting down their spears today. They are Spitters, so we've got some nice range attacks from the Goblins. We have a King on Chariot. This guy is new for me, never fielded him before, so I'm keen to see how he gets on. We have 2 hordes of Trolls here. One of them has Dwarven Ale, just because I had some points left over. Then we have 3 War Trombones. And then character-wise, we have 2 Whizzes. One has Soul Drain and Inspiring Talisman, this one here. The other has the Amulet upgrade for Lightning Bolt 5. And then behind them we have a Flaggit with Loot of Insatiable Darkness for some decent Bane chant. And then, making his debut on the channel today, we've got another giant, triple giants today, and I'm absolutely chuffed. This guy's new for me, so I've got the 3 generations of giants from GW. How sweet is that? Yeah. Right then. Sure, yeah. Okay, so here's what the board is looking like after deployment, and we are playing the Ransack Scenario. So I'm just going to go over where the objective markers are. We got 1 objective marker here, that is worth 1 point. Then we've got 1 that's right here, that is also worth 1 point. Then we've got 1 here, that's worth 2. This one is worth 3. This one is worth 2, that one, yeah. That one is worth 1. And that one is worth 2. Loads of objectives. I think we got a 6, didn't we? So we about put down 7 objective markers, and obviously we didn't know where we were deploying, so they're all more or less around the middle. And let's crack on with the game. So how you doing, Kings of War fans? Utterly Spineless here, bringing you another Kings of War battle report. Hope you're having a good day today. We've got another rematch of a Goblins vs Varangur. So this is the 3rd match we've played so far on this channel. It's not the same lists. Quite different. Lots of tinkers have been made to both lists, but the Goblins have won the first 2, so it's time to see if the Varangur can get some revenge. This was a great battle rep, thoroughly enjoyed playing it, so let's crack on. This Goblins got first turn, again, much to the Varangur's annoyance. And yeah, made a pretty general advance up the board here. Playing quite aggressive, not holding back. This is quite a shooty list for me, this is. So I've got some new stuff in there. I've got that Horde of Spitters, and I've got that King on Chariot who's got extra range attacks too. Not really used to playing a list this shooty. So I'll see how I get on with it. And yeah, so we're playing the objective-based game, and there's quite a lot of objective markers scattered throughout the board. And I feel I did alright on deployment here. If I just skip back a pick for a sec. Yeah, so that is what I had left to deploy when the Varangur finished deploying. And as you can see, that's about 1,000 points worth of stuff. So that is just one of the benefits I wanted to highlight of MSU, or multiple small unit style armies. Yeah, okay, it's only like, say, 10 drops to 16, but that's huge. What it actually means is, like, it's 1,000 points you can deploy without your opponent being able to do anything about it. So that's what the board is looking like after the Goblin first turn of movement, and in the shooting phase, I basically opened up with the Spitters, the Chariot. I think the Chariot was in range, and then the whiz as well, and I managed to put 4 wounds. I focused all my wounds onto his vanguarded unit, and I did manage to waver them, which I was quite chuffed with, and that is about it for Goblins turn 1. So then Varangur movement in response then. Yeah, quite conservative movement here. Obviously, they didn't want to just march up and be in charge range of everything. So quite a few of the units have shuffled about. Trolls being quite conservative in the middle there, and not far up for these guys to go on the flank either. That unit being wavered again has been a pain in the ass for the Fallen. So what they've done to get out of range of the flea bags there, they've just pivoted backwards, and the other stuff has moved up. Those cavalry, they've got range weapons. I forget what they are. I'll have to look that up. They've got range weapons, and they have moved up, and we put some range attacks on that war trombone in the shooting phase and done 1 wound and wavered him. And that is it for the Varangur turn 1. Goblin turn 2 then, and this is what the board is looking like at the end of the Goblin movement phase. Not a single charge declared, I believe. No, absolutely nothing. There wasn't really anything good in range, so if you just work from left to right then, what I've done with the flea bags is, because that unit of Fallen just pivoted backwards to the flank, I've literally just left them there out of range, didn't decide to charge those guys. I've moved the giant up, moved the war trombone up to get some nice shooting off on these softer units. The horde hasn't moved because obviously I don't want to be on 6s to hit again. That chariot there is literally just pivoted so that if you can charge out, you can get out of this gap and still make a pivot. The Morbius pack here, they've just gone up to screen for the trolls, and so has the giant moved up. That war trombone's moved up to get some shooting off, and I've moved these guys up behind the Morbius pack. And so what I've done here with the giant is I moved him up to the side, which, yeah, looking at it now is such a fucking stupid thing to do. And you'll see this as a recurring theme throughout this battle report. I make some absolutely shocking tactical decisions. I don't know what I was doing. My head must have been in the absolute shed this game. Because obviously this guy's got fly, right? So I've just totally overlooked the fact that he's got fly. So he doesn't need to actually commit to a charge there, does he? What a tool. Yeah, so anyway, that's what the movement is looking like. And in the shooting phase, war trombone opens up and goes on that unit there, those rangers, and they go up to an amazing 12 wounds, just rolled really well here, and then they are wavered. And what else? Between the horde of shooters and this guy with some shots as well, and this war trombone, put a ton of wounds on this unit of cavalry riders, and they are routed as well. So that's pretty good. Get 2 routes in the shooting phase. I'm running pretty well for shooting in this game so far. And then this war trombone opens up on that unit of cav and wavers them too. So we've got these guys wavered, holding up the Mounted Suns again. Yeah, so a pretty good shooting phase there, actually. Yeah, that's it for the Goblins turn 2. Let's see how the Varangur respond. Varangur turn 2 then, and some charges have been declared. First things off in the centre, the Troll King and the Troll Horde have both decided to charge into the front of the Morbius packs. That's fair enough, they probably didn't have a lot of choice. That little warband troop, which was about here, have charged the war trombone in the woods. The Fallen have just shuffled over there. These guys have made their way across. And yeah, no surprises, that King on Chimera has flown right over the top and pivoted, so I'm paying the price for that absolutely stupid move with the giant. I should have been left him back here, really, to cover these guys' flanks. That would have been the smart thing to do, but oh well, we live and learn. And that is about it for Varangur movement. Needless to say, that warband, yeah, they get triple attacks on the war trombone, so they put 8 wounds on him. Those guys have the crushing strength upgrade. So he is routed. And then between them, the trolls put a, I think 12, yeah, 12 wounds on that Morbius pack regiment, and they are routed too. And then this is rather interesting here. To decide what to do on their reform, he elects to move the Surge the Troll King forward, and was really lucky. I think he got like a 4, because he barely managed to get out of the arc of sight of the giant. Like, I think a 1, 2, or 3, really risky move there, because a 1, 2, or 3, and that guy was getting flanked by the giant next turn. So that was a bit risky, but it paid off in the end. And so that's what the reforms are looking like for the trolls. And that is what the board is looking like at the end of Varangur turn 2. So not a bad comeback with the Varangur there. They brought out a War Trombone and a regiment of more beast packs. So they taking some casualties. And see how the Goblins can respond in turn 3. So here's what the board is looking like at the end of Goblin movement. And on the right hand side here, I charge those Mounted Sons of Korgan with my Morbius packs, but I roll a 1 and fail the charge on Yellow Bellied, which is really frustrating to say the least. So what I do here with my trolls is I just pivot them round to face the king on the Chimera there, and I do the same with my giant just facing inwards. Now this is probably not an ideal thing to do because I've got 2 expensive units tied up facing like literally nothing, and the flyer can easily outmaneuver them. But my thoughts here are like those trolls can't take a flank charge by him, right? They definitely can't take a rear charge, and to be honest, they probably can't even take a front charge. So this guy can put out like 9-10 wounds easily, and there's no inspiring around these trolls. He can rout them on a front charge if he gets a decent roll, and I just don't want that to happen. So I'm trying to discourage that as much as I can by lining my giant for the counter charge. That's my thoughts there, really. I just put myself in such a bad position that any move I make was always going to be a bad one. And then in the middle here, I've charged my trolls into the Troll King and the giant into the trolls. Yeah, again, in hindsight, that's just a stupid decision. That's just dumb. Why didn't I charge both my trolls and my giant into that troll horde? That's what I should have done. Yeah, that makes sense, right? Because then they can rout him, reform, and then... But anyway, I didn't do that. Yeah, my chariot has moved up and turned ready to get a flank. This guy's got big shield, so I really want to be in his flank, so I've just turned up and pivoted there. And then my flea bags, I have moved them backwards, and then I put my giant into the front of that little troop there. My thinking here is if the giant should rout that troop quite comfortably, turn to face the fallen, and then when they make the charge, these guys are ready for the counter charge. So that's my plan there. And in the shooting phase, I unload the War Trombone and these guys, and I put 6 wounds onto that guy. And then... yeah, here's the combat phase. What a total fuck up by the giant here. He puts 2 wounds on that troop. Oh, I just roll so badly here. I think I got something like 7 for his attacks, and then I rolled nothing but 1s. So they're not even wavered, because look, I double 1s the nerve as well. That's an absolute fail, and that ends up costing me quite a bit. So that's really, really unfortunate. The trolls do a little better. They get Bane chanted, so despite this guy's big shield, they're still wounded on 3. I think about 6 or 7 wounds is average there, but they don't manage to waver him. But 7 wounds is a pretty damn good start on this guy, especially considering his defense 6. And then... oh, that's the moving phase. Yeah, the giant puts 6 wounds on that troll horde and wavers them. So that's okay. I'll take a waver there. Those guys are in inspiring range. There's no chance of routing them on a charge by a giant. It's just, that's a fairly decent roll for that giant. So he can put 6 wounds on a horde of trolls, but my other giant can only put 2 wounds on a troop of defense 3 infantry. That's giant's view, quite unpredictable. And yeah, so that's the end of the Goblin turn, unfortunately. Let's see if Varangur can respond. Yeah, sorry, forgot to mention that because my Morbius packs failed to charge against that troop of horse raiders there, sorry, that regiment of horse raiders, I shot them with a War Trombone as well, and they were already on something like 5 wounds, and I just did enough to tip them over and rout them in the shooting phase instead, so that wasn't too bad. Okay, so here's the board after Varangur have made all their charges and their movement, and on the right hand side you can see that unit of Mounted Sons have charged into the front of the Morbius pack, and the chieftain on the king on the Chimera, he is charged over and charged into this individual here. He is my whiz with Soul Drain, who's pretty much not cast a single thing all game actually, because I deployed him badly. But yeah, this is just another example of me just dropping the ball, because what I've done here is I've left that character there in like no man's land. There's really no reason for him to be there. And if my opponent can charge him and overrun, he can flank charge the giant, which is an Absolute bummer. That sucks. We pre-measured it before the round of combat, and he needs a 4. So if he routes this guy and gets a 4+, he can flank charge the giant, which is a bit of a bummer. And then the fallen have flank charged into the side of the giant. Now, I wasn't anticipating that being a flank charge to start with, but even then, I'm still okay with that, because I'm thinking to myself, okay, well, it's a hindered charge, they're -1 to hit, and they're losing the Thunderous, and the fallen aren't that killy, so maybe I can still survive that. But then, no, obviously, I forgot that they have Pathfinder. So just another instance of me totally fucking up. So anyway, the Mounted Sons, yeah, they decimate the Morbius pack, no surprises there. The king on the Chimera puts 9 wounds on my wizard and routs him, but then I do get a bit lucky here. He only rolls a 2, so doesn't manage to overrun into the rear of the giants. The Troll King's gone back into the trolls, and he puts 5 wounds on them. That's fairly decent. I think this guy's only got 7 attacks, so 5 wounds of 7 attacks is pretty damn good. But luckily enough, the trolls aren't even wavered, so they're totally fine. And yeah, this is the part where I realised that those have Pathfinder. 19 wounds on that giant, and he is routed in a 1er, so any ideas I had of making a counter charge on my flea bags are out the window. And those trolls were wavered, if you remember, so they just regen a couple of wounds, and that giant is fine. So that is what the board is looking like at the end of Varangur turn 3, and a pretty successful turn from the Varangur there. They managed to rout a giant, they managed to rout a Morbius pack, they managed to rout one of my wizards, and yeah, everything's in a pretty good position for them, really. And the Suns decided to overrun. They decided to overrun from the combat, because I think my opponent's thoughts here was, like, if he didn't, I would just chaff him up with a War Trombone and then double charge him. So where he is now, he can take a charge from the trolls have line of sight, but the giant doesn't. So that was his thoughts there, which is probably for the best, I reckon. That's the end of Varangur turn. So this is what the board state was looking like before Goblins took their turn, and here's what it's like after movement. So, as you can see, the trolls have gone into the front of those Mounted Sons, yeah, and the giant has pivoted. Obviously, he didn't have line of sight, so he's just had to do a reform just so he can maybe get a flank charge off next turn. The chariot has gone into the flank of that Cave Troll King. He had a choice there. I didn't know whether to put him into the flank of the King or that unit of trolls. I went with the King because he's inspiring, so if I can get rid of him first, right, which I almost certainly will with a flank charge there because he doesn't have his big shield, and then get a decent roll from the giant, I can potentially rout both these units. It's unlikely, but that was my thinking. Yeah, so anyway, what else to do? Yeah, I'm just totally arsing around with those flea bags. I don't know what's going through my head here. I'm trying to outmaneuver this unit of Fallen, and instead of just charging them into something, which I should have done like 3 turns ago, I just keep on like running them around and just being a tool. What am I doing? That's such an idiot move. Yeah, and if you're pretty keen, you might have already spotted a howling error here, which I'll talk about later. Yeah, so that's what I've done with those guys. I'm just trying to get the flank charge. Yeah, I don't know what I'm doing. So yeah, that's the charges. In the shooting phase, though, I open up everything I've got onto that not warband, what are they? Bloodsworn, I think they are. I've got, let me have a look, I got a War Trombone there, opens onto them, the Wiz with Lightning Bolt, and that unit of Spitters there. I get greedy with the shooting, but I do enough wounds on them. They're already sitting on 5, now they're up to 12, and I do rout them, which is good. I needed that. War Trombone puts 5 wounds on that king, which is just pretty damn good rolling as well, but 5 wounds isn't enough to do anything to it. And then I, go to town on this Troll King. 15 wounds. He doesn't get his big shield because of the flank charge, and he is routed, so that's pretty good. So I need this Giant's combat to turn up big time. Oh yeah, sorry, onto these Trolls. They shit the bed. 3 wounds onto those Mounted Sons, which is pretty crap. I don't think it matters. They're going to get flank charged by the Giant next turn, but still, I would have liked more than 3. But no, they fudged their rolls. And yeah, this Giant doesn't do very well. Those trolls were on 6 wounds last turn, and like I said, they regen. I think maybe 2 wounds they regen, and then he just fucked his attacks, and yeah. He's wounding them on 2s. Oh, man. But yeah, despite them being on 6+1, 7 brutal, I still got a waiver. which is okay, I suppose. It's better than nothing. So the nerve roll was decent, but just not enough wounds there. That's crap. And that is the end of the Goblin turn. That's what the board is looking like at the end of play. Before we go on to the Varangur turn, though, here's a little still before the Varangur turn. Can anyone notice the howling error I've made here? The car wreck that is my left flank. Yeah, look at that. Whoopee! That is a flank charge. So there we go. Start of Varangur turn, and that's what they've done after their movement. And as if, yeah, that wasn't bad enough. Look at that. I've even left my whiz there. So I tell you what, why don't you just charge my whiz and then overrun into my flank? Huh? There we go. Take that, Fallen. Right, okay. So here's my defense, right? This is a horde of spitters, and I don't usually run hordes of spitters. I don't think they're very good. But that's for another story, right? So I just think it puts that mentality in your head, right? They hit on 5s, so you just really don't want to move them because you just don't want to hit things on 6s because they may as well not be there if you're hitting stuff on 6. You can honestly roll 20 dice and get like 2, 3 6s and then you don't wound, and you just feel like, oh, you got a whole horde of archers doing literally jack shit. So you're just like, oh, you get greedy over your shots and you're desperate not to move them. And yeah, I think that's just what I did. I came to my shooting phase and I was like, oh, I don't want to move, what can I shoot? And then just totally overlooked the fact that this was a flank charge. Yeah, what an idiot. So, yeah, and then just trying to be clever and manoeuvring my flea bags for like a flank charge, which like didn't work out. Just being a dick. Just being a dick. So anyway, the mounted sons have gone back into the trolls. Not back in, sorry, just straight in. They haven't charged them yet. They definitely got the potential to break a horde of trolls, and one of those guys can put on the hurt, but they need some good rolling. The king has gone into the back of the giant, and yeah, what else has happened? Nothing. I think that's about it. And only 5 wounds from those mounted sons, which is a little bit unfortunate. I think those guys are Thunderous too, though, so if they do get stripped of their Thunderous, they definitely don't have as much damage as you think. On to the next combat. Yeah, the big dragon guy puts 21 wounds on the giant. That's a rear charge. He was never going to survive that, so he is routed. The little troop in the woods there charged into the war trombone, which I forgot to mention, and they get their triple attacks. And I think those guys have crushing 1 as well, so they did manage to put 7 wounds on the war trombone and rout him. The Fallen put 7 wounds on the Wiz, and that's enough to rout him. And then they overrun into the Spitters and put 22 wounds on those, and they routed those as well. And that is what the board is looking like at the end of Varangur's turn. And yeah, it's gone to shit for the Goblins here, really. If you have a look at just where the objectives are placed and just like where my units are, I'm not really in a place to really contest any of them, and I've pissed the game away in the 4th turn with that massive error of the Fallen there. Let's see if I can do something about this as we go into the next Goblin turn. Okay, so here's what the board is looking like after I've made all my charges. And on the left-hand side then, I've charged the flea bags into the front of the unit of Fallen. Now, if you remember, there it is an objective marker here, right there. It is only worth a 1 point, but it's still worth something. And I want to basically stop the Fallen from scoring that. So, do you know what's funny as well is that that's a hindered charge because I came through the woods. So after all that total pissing around, I charged the Fallen in the front, and it's still a hindered charge. There we go. That's just what I get for trying to be big and clever. That's a total fail. I really just want to strip their Thunderous here, though, because if I strip their Thunderous and put a wound on them, there's a chance that they don't break the flea bags in the next in the counter charge, and I can contest that objective and not let them score any points. Over on the right hand side, then I put the trolls back into the Suns, and because I totally fucked the roll last turn, I need to put 3 wounds on them. I have to commit the giant as well because I can't guarantee the trolls will break them, and I just want them gone. If I'd have been able to put more wounds on those, I wouldn't have to commit the giant, and I could have moved him down towards this objective here, which is worth 2 points because it's getting to like the 5th turn. But so again, that just sucks. What can you do in that? So if I hadn't committed the giant, I could have just tied up the trolls there. In hindsight, really, I should have just put the giant down there, shouldn't I? Yeah. But anyway. And then I charge the trolls into the front of that king. Now, he's already on 5 wounds, so if I get a decent roll here, I can potentially rout this guy. And then I put the war trombone and try and put some wounds on these guys and shooting, and then I move the chariot. That's a 2-point objective onto that. So, yeah. So that's what I've done on my turn 5. And onto the combats then. I use this guy's shooting to put 1 wound on these guys, and I waver them, so that's fairly decent. And the war trombone puts 2 wounds onto that unit of trolls and wavers them again. So that's a 3rd turn in a row those trolls have been wavering, and they're still only sitting on 7 wounds. They've just been regenerating their wounds all the time, annoyingly. Getting a taste of my own medicine here. I don't think I've ever played against trolls before, so it must be really frustrating to play against that regen, so they're not going anywhere. And yeah, so the Smarted Sons are routed, and I just pivot the trolls towards that objective, the giant towards the objective down the bottom. And then, I totally fuck up my attacks here with the trolls again and only put 4 wounds onto this guy, which is like really shit. I'm just not getting the breaks with the dice either in the combats. Yeah, so that's really unfortunate. And that's the end of my turn, I believe. Oh no, the flea bags. Yeah, do you know what? Do you think I do a wound? No. Do I shit? I don't do any wounds, so I haven't stripped their Thunderous, so I don't think those guys are going to be sticking around for the next turn. Okay, so Varangur turn 5 then, and really not a lot for the Varangur to do here. The Fallen have gone into the front of the flea bags. This unit of wavered, so can't move. The Scold has gone and parked himself in front of the king on the chariot, just, I don't know, to stop him doing any shenanigans, I guess. And the king on Chimera has just pivoted in front of the trolls and flown onto that 3-point objective. So at the moment, the Varangur are holding 3... 4, 5, 6, because they are 3 inches away from that one on the trolls, because they backed up, because you can back up if you wavered. So onto the combat then, and the Fallen, rout the flea bags, no surprises there. They didn't strip their Thunderous, so they did 9 wounds, and they are routed. And then they reform it to face the middle of the board. So that is what the board is looking like at the end of Varangur turn 5. And, right, okay, so despite making some horrendous decisions this game, I can still park my giant onto that objective, right, and get 2 there. Then I can put my trolls onto that one. That gives me an extra point there. This one's fairly uncontested. And I can pivot my trolls, I can contest these 3 points, and I can get some shooting onto this unit then, and maybe even get them off that objective. So I really, really need an extra turn now. So at this point, we roll to see if we get an extra turn, and we don't. But dude, you might be saying, this is turn 5, and you get a turn 6. And yeah, you're right, you do have 6 turns, but do you know what? I was in charge of the turn count of this game, and I must have just moved it 1 too many times. Because I thought this was turn 6, so we rolled to see if we got an extra turn, and we didn't. And I could have snatched victory from the jaws of defeat with an extra turn. So yeah, my biggest mistake of the game, by far, was fucking up the turn counter. So we end the game there, unfortunately, and the Varangur score 3, 4, 5, 6, and the Goblins score just the 2. So there we go. It's a Varangur victory, 6 points to 2. So there we go, guys. Another cool Kings of War battle report. Hope you enjoyed that one. Yeah, decent victory for the Varangur there, and I definitely feel like they deserve to win. Goblins did not deserve that win in the slightest, so a fair result there. And nice that the Varangur got some revenge on those pesky Goblins who they've been having trouble with for the last few weeks. So there we go. Well done to the Varangur, and for my MVPs... Well, there was one player who turned up big time for the Varangur today. So my MVP award goes to the Varangur side, and it goes to the Turn Dice. Yeah, this guy showed up big time, managing to secure a decent victory for the Varangur.
Nah, I'm just kidding. It's going to the Fallen. Yeah, these guys did well. It could be, despite getting being outranged by the flea bags, they managed to maneuver around in a way that they didn't get charged by the flea bags for the first couple of turns. They put a flank charge, a flank charge onto the giant and rout him, and then they got that awesome individual charge onto the whiz, and then they overrun into the flank, and then sitting on the on the one victory point at the end of the game. Yeah, they did well. Better play to them.